Hello Year 1 and welcome to our reading for this week. We've been doing a lot of reading of fiction books so far this term, so story books, but today we're going to think, and the rest of the week really as well, we're going to think about non-fiction. So to get our heads around what fiction and non-fiction are, we're going to go through it a little bit today and see if we can sort some ideas into fiction and non-fiction, and then we'll move on to doing a little bit of work on non-fiction later on in the week. So what's the difference? Fiction books contain made-up stories. It's all made up. It's not true. It's some kind of imagination has been put into it. Okay, it can be based on true events, but it's usually been made up by somebody. So there's things in there that have been made up by the writer. Non-fiction books contain true facts and information, real things that have happened. So the features of a fiction book is that it's not real. It tells some kind of a story. There's characters and settings. There's sometimes illustrations, though not always. There's a problem and a solution, which we talk about when we do our story mountain. And it should be read in the right order, because if you read a story out of order, you might find the solution before you find the problem. So fiction books are lots of the story books that we read, or maybe plays that we might read, or poetry. So there are different kinds of fiction books and text, which is just a piece of writing really, and these are some of the examples. So you might have fairy tales and nursery rhymes like Goldilocks, which we've read in school together. There's picture story books, so things like the Gruffalo, where there's lots of big pictures and a little bit of writing. Chapter books, so you might think things like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or the Twits, where it's broken down into chapters. Not so many illustrations in those books, but lots of writing to get your teeth stuck into. And novels, big thick novels that you can really start to get involved in the world that they're talking about and get into the writer's imagination. Now, non-fiction books are a bit different. They have real facts in them and real information. It gives you information so you can learn things from non-fiction books. Often it'll have a contents page and a glossary. A contents page tells you where to look when you want to read about something in particular. A glossary will tell you the meanings of new words that you might have found in the book. There's an index in some non-fiction books. These don't have to be in all non-fiction writing, but they do happen in some of them. An index is where you might look up a keyword and it'll tell you if you look on page 3 you'll find that keyword, and that's how you can find a bit more information. Might have headings and subheadings, which we'll talk a little bit more about at the end of the week. And it might have some diagrams with labels, so it might have pictures, but they wouldn't really be illustrations, they'd more be diagrams or photographs. And there's photographs at the bottom there. And a fun fact, you don't need to read non-fiction books in the right order. You can pick it up and just read it like you would a normal storybook, but actually most people when they're reading a non-fiction book will say, oh, I just want to learn about that particular thing, and they'll skip across to that bit. Oh, now I'd like to think about this bit, and they might use the contents page or the index page to help you with that. And some of the examples of those sorts of things are dictionaries, which we have looked at in school, where everything's in alphabetical order. History books, which I know we've got a few of those in the classroom that you like to read. Animal nature books, so you might be finding all about different animals and where they live and what they eat, etc. General knowledge and trivia, so when you're looking at the books on the bookshelf and you're thinking, I don't want to read a story, but there's some books there, we've got some that answer questions for you. Science books, might show you a bit of experiments and things like that. Travel books and art books, and biographies and autobiographies. And atlases as well would probably come under the travel books, which I know you like looking at in the classroom with all of the maps and things in. Those are real things that they are showing you about. And non-fiction isn't just for books, it can be lots of different ideas. So things like documentaries and videos that you might watch about real life things are also non-fiction. Okay, so you might think about the videos you watched about penguins, and they were non-fiction videos because they were giving you information about penguins. And now that we've had a look at what fiction and non-fiction is, see what books you can see either on your Oxford Owl or in your house, and see which ones of those are storybooks and which ones of those are non-fiction books. So fiction and non-fiction, or even just the things that you might remember from seeing in the classroom or seeing out and about, or you might think, oh, I'll have a look on Shop's page or something like that, and have a look on the internet, see if you can find the names of 3 non-fiction books and 3 fiction books, and just see if you can jot them down somewhere. There might be books you've got in your house, there might be books we've got in the classroom, there might be books we've already talked about. So 3 fiction and 3 non-fiction books. Then we'll look a little bit more about non-fiction at the end of the week.